Okay, great. So I think we are good to start the webinar now. Sorry for the delay. We'll be looking at how we can launch the app ideas. We know with the growing mobile world, a lot of people, this industry has boomed and a lot of people are coming up with ideas. So we try to come up with this webinar to help people who want to learn what steps needs to be taken before you launch the ideas, and what is the app development process. That's what we will look at, and how it's actually done. So we'll look at the best practices. We'll look at the step-by-step process, what it entails, and the monetization piece, how you can generate revenue, business plans, and everything. So moving forward, we'll move forward to that. And today we'll be accompanied by the CEO of TheAppLabb, who's Kundan Joshi, and myself, Chetan Lamba, who takes care for sales and business development for TheAppLabb. So we'll both be presenting, and we'll have expert comments coming from Kundan, and he will personally tell you what needs to be done, what are the best practices that we follow, and how to actually build the product that you dream of. So before moving forward, we'll just see, as I said, how we'll learn. What we'll learn in today's webinar is how you choose the right idea, from idea conception to idea development, what's the process cycle, and what steps you need to take before approaching your development partner. So what study, what homework you need to do before you approach development companies, and the experts to help you in the process. And we'll give you some tips to turn your idea into app success. This webinar is being recorded, so the recording will be sent to all the attendees after we conclude the webinar. We are on Twitter, Facebook. If you have any questions, you can always tweet or Facebook message us, or tweet with Ideas Made Mobile hashtag. That's our official hashtag. And then we'll sure be get back to you, send us an email and whatnot. So we're always there to help. So we'll give you a little bit of what we do. As a company, we are a mobile app and web app development shop based out of Liberty Village. We basically operate in two domains. We have our solution side. We also call them products. So product for the event space, which is called the events app, which can be applicable to any conference, exhibitions, and trade shows. We do separate webinars for the products too. If you're keen to learn about them, go to our website, register for them, and we'll have a detailed discussion on the product side. So one is the product side, and today we'll be talking about our services side, which is pretty much custom development. You come up with an idea. In that space, we work with a lot of tech startups, entrepreneurs who have ideas in mind, and we help them build it. We work with a lot of enterprise and corporate clients as well, starting from Dell, Frigidaire, Rogers, Stiff. So we are just not a development shop. We also help clients do the strategy, the initial phases. We also help them to do prototyping in case they need to go to VCs or angel investors for the money. And then we actually do the designs, the user interface designs. We do UX studies. We'll talk in detail about all of them today. And then obviously development of the product, and then testing, and then launch. And we also help in marketing for mobile and web apps. So we'll start. Kundan will join us in the expert comment section, how it's actually done. So I'll just give you a little bit of overview on what it takes. So basically, the first question is to answer. As we all know, the mobile revolution is here. So we need to answer a question: why we want to go to mobile space, why we want to do mobile apps. So there are basically rough stats: 1.4 billion smartphone users are on the planet right now, which is constantly growing, and 1 in 7 people around the globe have a smartphone. And 56% American adults own smartphone. And the funny fact is 91% of smartphone owners have their device within their arm's length. So we are all guilty of that. We know that we don't leave our smartphones even for a second. So the need of product developers or the enterprise and corporates to have the presence on the smartphone is has increased immensely. So you gotta have a presence on smartphone if you want to reach your customers, if you want to be in front of their faces and do your marketing properly and whatnot. So that all plays the role in this theory. So as I explained a little bit before, that what it takes for the custom apps and the product development cycle. So we help in strategy of mobile and web apps. In that area, we help them to visualize the idea. So by visualizing, I mean we follow a lot of best practices, such as doing wireframing, doing the rough sketches of the app skeletons, getting the approvals on the layout of the product, and then we do mid fidelity wireframes, if you want to call them, or and then we move to user interface designs. We'll talk in detail all of them, how it's done in the strategy phase, and the design is the UI designs and interaction diagrams and whatnot. And in the development, we actually develop the product, and then we do thorough testing, and then we also give the clients an opportunity to do testing, and they approve the product, and that's when we launch to the market. So basically, it's explained a little bit in detail what strategy entails. Your documentation comes into play. You do the wireframing, and then in the design, you see what people love. Basically, there are three parts. We do user experience. User experience studies. You need to know that the product that you're going to develop, what is your target market, and what your users like. So that UX experience, user experience study plays an important role. And then you do the wireframing based on that, and then you do the UI design based on wireframes. So this is generally the best practice in conceptualizing or visualizing the idea, how it will look, the end product will look. And once we do the design, we know the user interface, the how the app is going to look like. So this is basically the best practice when you do the product development. So you gotta have an expert or a consultant on board which is assisting you. We all have ideas. We know a lot of them are valid ideas. There are a lot of problems out in the world which are not solved yet and that we need to solve. But so you need to have an expert on board which assists you with all this process. And the development is done on multiple platforms: iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and there are a couple types of app development as well: native app development or hybrid app development. And then we need to see if we need a backend. So all this is nailed down when we do when a person does a detailed requirement study. So system requirement specification document is the end result for that study, and that's when you know what needs to be developed, what the end product is supposed to look like and function like. And that's when you put in your effort and money in development. So why app strategy is important? So if in project management there is a term, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So strategy is in simple words is a plan, how the product is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to function. So all those questions are answered in the app strategy phase of the product development. So step one is you have an idea, you come up with an idea, and step two is validation of the idea. So step two is basically needs to be done, or it's a good sign if it's done before you approach your development partners. So validation of the idea is basically you understand if something like this already exists, if your idea already exists, or if you're solving a unique problem that is not solved yet. So you can do a little bit of market validation. You can talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues or people around you, and see what their response is in terms of what you're proposing, if they will adopt it. So market validation and the user validation can be done with the feedback of your friends or your people around you, basically. And then market validation is when you check if something already like this exists or not. And customer validation, if your buyers or customer or your consumers will actually use the app or use the idea that you're trying to develop. And then growth validation is uh, your revenue strategy and how you are trying to make money out of it. So that plays part in the business model that you will create for venture capitals or angel investors. Step three is business model creation. That's when you figure out your revenue model, your funding model, how you're going to fund the app, if it's a bootstrap project or if it's a bootstrap startup where you are putting in all the money in one go, or you'll be going to angel investors or venture capitals, and then how you'll be driving the users. So at the adoption. So you need to figure out the adoption of your consumers and the scalability. So in most of the cases, the best approach is to go lean. So to figure out what's your unique differentiation is from the apps that's not out there yet, and then you just focus on that for phase one. So we generally recommend to our clients to go lean. Basically, by going lean means going phase-wise approach. So you do phase one. In phase one, you just focus on what's your differentiation is, and then just roll out a product with those features itself. And then in phase two or phase three, and in next phases, you can always go and add features and frills to it. So all those in business model creation, you should basically figure all that out, that what you need to do for phase one or phase two, or if you have really awesome product which is not out there, and if you want to go full-fledged, so obviously you can always do that too. And then scalability, from in terms of platform features, you can figure out if you want to just do iOS first, to looking at the timelines and budget of the project. So it depends on a lot of factors. It depends. It's more like a business decision than a technical decision. So technically, obviously, everything is possible: iOS, Android, or BlackBerry, whatever you want to create. And the step four is app strategy. That's where the step three ideally can be done before you approach a development partner, still step three. But step four, you would need an expert on board to do the app strategy, to tell you. So we always recommend that. I mean, competition research, as I mentioned before, you need to know if something like that already exists. What's your feature list, and then you can prioritize these features for your MVP. MVP stands for minimum viable product. So you need to figure out what would be the feature set for your MVP, for your phase one product. And then you can always outline functional specifications, how the app is supposed to function. So strategy is really important phase in your product development cycle. You need to know and that what your app is supposed to look like, and how it's supposed to function, before you invest your money and energy in actually doing the development efforts and actually putting in your money into it. So again, I would reiterate, the strategy is really important. So you have to plan on what you need to do before you actually do it. So how is it done? I'll give you a little bit of overview, and we hope that Kundan would have few expert comments when how it's done and what it takes to do the design, and the strategy of the app. Step one will be the user experience research, as I said. So you need to know your users. If you're doing an app which is for teenage people or teenage group, then the app experience and the research will differ to that, and the end result will be different. Or if your app target market is mid-age people, then the experience will differ and research will differ, and the result for that exercise will be different. So if you want to create an app for mid-age people, you want to have the experience as simple as possible, everything on their face, and then they can just tap on it and get it. But then now we have a lot of new gestures coming in, and how the apps are being operated. So if your target market is teenage people, then you might want to have the latest gestures into your app and stuff like that. So those all studies and user experience research is really important to know your users, and the product will align to their needs basically. And the step 2 is wireframe design. So as I said, the user experience study is done, and that's the input to the wireframe design. And the wireframe design, that's when you figure out the layout, you figure out the gestures, if you want to comment on that phase. But and then gestures we probably figure out in the experience, when we do the experience and research. And then in wireframe design, you do the sketches, you do the skeletons, and you figure out how the app is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to function, what is the navigation, what screen comes after what. So wireframing is not really a costly process, but it tells you how the app is supposed to look like. So you have the skeletons, you have the layout lined out, and you know what's going on. And the step 3 is app prototype. People who are going to, so again, in your business case or in a business model, you will figure out your funding approach. You will know where the funds are coming from for your product. So in case of I'll give you an example. In case of going to venture capitals or angel investors for your money, you really have a good idea, but you don't have funds to fund that. So you can approach till step 3, do an app prototype, give them a functional app, more like an more than words. Basically, you give them a prototype to play with and see what the product is and what you're trying to sell them. And that's when that has worked in the past for a lot of our clients, that which did a prototype or a functioning prototype to show to their investors and help them to secure funding and whatnot. So in prototype, there are quite a few layers as well. So you can do just the wireframe designs. So after a user experience study or research, you can just do wireframe design and just do the sketches of the app and maybe link them together. So by linking them, I just mean that you just have the sketches, and then for example, if you click on sign up page, what screen will show up and what screen will show up after what. So you tie them together in a logical way, so it's more like an app, but nothing is happening in the background. So that's a low level prototype. Then you can actually move a step ahead, and then you can do UI designs, the final designs for the app, and then link them together. So you haven't done the development, you just have done the UI designs for the app. And then after doing the UI designs, you can link them together. So after linking, then it'll give them more visualization of the product, what the product is supposed to look like, and it's a better sell basically. So it again depends on what venture capital you're going to, or what kind of investors you're going to. If they're technical, if they understand stuff, then maybe wireframes will suffice. And if they're old, they don't understand, they have to look at the product, kind of a thing. So you can move ahead and do the UI designs, and then link them together and show them how it's supposed to work. So there are a lot of things that can be done uh, in that step as well. And then step 4 is obviously architecture design, and how the app architecture will be. It's more towards the app development. It's more an input towards the app development. So this is the little bit of sketches. I will try to show you the example of what the wireframes look like. So wireframes could be these rough sketches. Put them in a phone screen, and link them together to show them how the app is supposed to flow. So wireframes basically help translate the client's idea to a sketch, and then give a visual clue, as I said, and then overall flow of the app. And once it's done, then you can identify the shortcomings and additional requirements that you need to add, and what's lacking and whatnot. So as I said, it's not an expensive process, but it's essential to figure out the app requirements and app flow, and how it's supposed to be done. And then it basically helps you between the wireframes and final product. It's We also call them POC, or proof of concept. So in user experience and user interface design, I will hand it to uh, Kundan to give you some expert comments how it's done, and then there'll be 10 minutes at the end of the webinar to take any questions if you may have.
Hello everyone. So user experience and user interface design are obviously extremely important portions of an app. User experience starts from the wireframes but goes into a lot more details, right from UX analysis, which is analyzing trends, analyzing your before trends even, analyzing your users, what are the expectations from the experience perspective, what are the expectations from the app, from the objectives of the app, and so on. And that's what will sort of formulate the user UX analysis, the competition research to see what your competition is doing for a specific segment of app or for your app itself, and all those will sort of form the UX analysis. And then obviously several fundamentals as far as user experience on mobile interface is considered. So those are have to be taken into account from the perspective of your application. And user interface, in essence, is a graphical view of your product, which takes inputs from the user experience analysis, as well as from the wireframes, and your the brand of your app itself. So the brand direction, UX, and the wireframes, they will dictate the layout, the design of your user interface. And uh, a designer who's experienced in UI designs, based on the experience, based on the judgment, and these inputs, should be able to put together a UI design which is appealing, at the same time easy to use, and gives an overall concise and superior experience as far as interacting with the app goes. Apart from that, obviously, I mean, it's extremely important from making sure that all the requirements and the specifications for the application have been put on paper right at the beginning. Starts with which Chetan mentioned during the strategy phase, where you put together a list of features, you do prioritization of those features, and then it's more about elaborating those features, which boils down to two aspects: functional specifications and technical specifications. Functional specifications is mainly laid out in terms of what your app is supposed to do, what each screen is supposed to do, just and what the flow of the application is supposed to be. So there are several elements of this, right from putting together a product roadmap, or you can call it a product flow diagram, which will guide you from screen to screen for every individual user. So let's say your app required has a consumer who's a user, you have an admin person who's another user of your app, and let's say you have a sponsor or an advertiser who's a third user of your app. So for each of them, specifying the flow of the entire app, how they would experience that entire app, is extremely important. And then putting as many details as possible, which sort of becomes your functional specs, and technical specs is more from the technology perspective. How does your app interact with the databases, what web services you are building to connect your database or your backend application with your front end application, and those, I mean, and a mobile architect, a technical lead, those, I mean, those are the right resources, those are the right individuals who can handle those areas pretty well. Whereas the functional specs are usually in a company like ours is a responsibility of our business systems analyst, who will be responsible for the overall product roadmap, making sure all the features for the product are well defined and consistent, and are kept at one place, and are constantly being evolved, in essence. So I mean, on this screen, you'll see some of the best practices, and from the documentation perspective, putting together the system requirements document. There are several other documents, right from the brand guidelines to the product architecture, your web services architecture, so on and so forth, which are usually well handled by business analysts and architects. The next step, obviously, is the most important step, which is the app development itself, which mainly goes from developing the app into for multiple platforms. An important consideration when it comes to multiple platforms is whether you're building a native application or a hybrid application. It's usually dictated by the kind of application, the kind of features you're providing access to. We don't have much time to go into details, but a quick synopsis would be an app which needs a superior experience, which requires a good amount of access to various functionality of your device, such as your GPS, your camera, so on and so forth. Those are best served with a native platform, whereas for a hybrid application, which is in essence, a hybrid application is an HTML5 application, so similar to a mobile website, which is wrapped in the casing of an app, which can be downloaded, but in essence it's HTML5 pages. So obviously the functionality is meant to be light. So information-based apps are usually good candidates for hybrid apps, where the experience that's expected is can be of a reasonable level, and not a superior level. So that's one decision that goes, and once that decision is made during obviously the strategy phase, accordingly the development would be conducted. If it's a native app, then we would have, and let's say you want to deploy on iPhone and Android platforms, or Windows platform as well, then accordingly you'll have specialist developers for those specific platforms. Will likely need a developer for the server-side application, which involves the database, which involves the backend application where the admin can view the analytics, able to manage data, and other features of the application. And the same resource or the same developer would usually be also responsible for developing the web services that connect the backend application to the front end application. Once the development is complete, that's when we that's the important process is quality assurance, making sure that there are testers who are not, I mean, the developers would always have the responsibility of testing the application on individual platforms, but it's extremely important that a third party team or individuals who are not actively developing the app have an opportunity to test the application. Now, whether it's in our case, we have a separate user acceptance testing team or a UAT team who will go through the app through manual testing, automated testing, and so on, and make sure that the app functions as specified in the as it's specified in the requirements. It functions as per the user experience goals, the business goals, and the functional and technical specifications. So it's more of a validation and verification process to make sure that the app is behaving as expected. This process can also be extended towards the stakeholders of the application or the company that's developing the application, as well as the end users. That's where you see a lot of apps conducting testing with beta testers or alpha testers and so on. So this is a small group of end testers or end users who will help you testing the app. Usually it's not too difficult to find people who will be willing to test the app for you and be able to have the first look at the app. So that's but that's an important part of the process. And then once the quality is as expected, you can take it to the next step, which is deployment of the app, which is if it's just an iPhone app, you'll publish it on the App Store. If it's an Android app as well, you'll publish it on Google Play Store as well. Once it's submitted, there will be some amount of support required through the submission process. In case if Apple or Google requires more details from you, if they reject the app or if they put a warning on the app, then you'll have to accordingly either heed to their requirements or comply with their requirements and resubmit the app. Very important process in this is also during the strategy phases where you are defining the features, it's important to take into consideration that all the features that you are defining for the app are in compliance with the App Store guidelines. It's extremely important. An experienced developer would have a good handle on what those guidelines are and will keep up to date with what those guidelines are. Our team does that. We have because we are submitting several apps on a weekly basis. We are always up to date with those guidelines. So it's important that you have that into consideration so that you minimize the chances of app rejection. You are always in tune with what the requirements are. If there are any gray, a lot of areas are sort of in the gray area when it comes to App Store guidelines. Those have to be interpreted rightly. Those have to be researched on. If you do have a feature that falls in such a paradigm, then it's important that you do the research and make sure that you are trying your best to comply with it. And if it regard after doing all of that, if it still gets rejected, then if that's something you'll have to comply to and make sure you fix those errors or whatnot and resubmit the app. And if there are a lot of times also, if you know beforehand that there are certain features where for which the chances of rejection are high, a good strategy when you're building the MVP or the minimum viable product is to try and exclude those features and try and push them as a separate update, which will possibly result in not impacting your timelines, your product timelines. Then once it's deployed, I mean, the next part is obviously making sure that you get as many users downloading your app as possible. And that's where, from the app marketing perspective, using the best practices and the best camp or the best channels which will serve you better from the perspective of what your user base is, what your app's function is, as well as mainly from the mobile app perspective itself. From our experience, the campaigns that have turned out to be most successful are social media campaigns, whether it is Facebook mobile ads, where you are promoting app installs within Facebook news, various other forms of Facebook advertising. Twitter advertising is very effective as well. So is banner display ads on mobile as well as web, more so on mobile. And then having a strong social media campaign where you are optimizing the organic growth of your campaign, and again catering to the right audience, making sure you are targeting your campaign towards as many of your relevant audience as possible. So this sort of goes more into detail in terms of some of the aspects which I covered from testing perspective. These are some of the different aspects of testing: integration testing, system testing, security testing, regression, functional usability, compatibility testing. All of those are important forms of testing when it comes to apps, to make sure that you verify and validate your requirements and your app objectives through the testing process. And again, I mean, going more detail in terms of the marketing. One point I missed earlier was from the perspective of optimization through app analytics. It's very important that your app is integrated with some form of analytics, whether it's just simple Google Analytics. There are a lot of third-party tools out there like Flurry Analytics and so on, which you can easily, I mean, they don't cost anything. You can easily integrate them as a part of your app. Or if it's a more complex app where something like Flurry may not work, then you can have custom analytics. But more importantly, having some form of analytics and monitoring the user behavior right from the installs, what platforms are they installing your app from, and then going into more details in terms of what is the behavior of the user on the app, which screens are they accessing, what is their flow of usage. Are they going to screen 1 and screen 5 and exiting, or are they going through all the screens and exiting? Are they going to first 3 screens and for some reason not going to screen 4 and screen 5? And let's say if your conversion is on screen 5, and majority of the users are not going to screen 5, then that could be a challenge. So monitoring that user behavior, which as well as overall user stats, always helps you understand how people are using your app, and then accordingly modify, whether it's changing the features of the app, or the way you market the app, and so on and so forth, or the platforms you invest in for the app. All those decisions can be made through analytics and through proper data. So data is extremely important, whether during the strategy phase you're trying to research for existing data that's out there, or you are conducting surveys on your own of users and collecting that data yourself, or once the app is launched, you are trying to collect data from the user behavior on your app itself. All forms of data are extremely important towards making sure that the progression of your app and is consistent, and it's improving at all times. So that's extremely important. The next slide is mainly featured case study, where we will highlight one specific case study and sort of walk you through how we followed all different uh, process points for that case study. So the case study that we're going to highlight is Loca Voca. It's basically a crowdsourcing app. It's an app where where users can, in essence, they can add a task, post a task on the app based on their location. The task could be for daily chores or for something you need help with at your work. Any errands you would post along with what are you willing to pay for that errand. So let's say, for example, you said, I want someone to do my laundry for $25. You will have a list. I mean, you will have users of the app who will get an opportunity to bid on that, in essence apply to it and say, let's say 5 users say that they are willing to to do the task for $25, and then you, based on their reviews, their location and whatnot, you can select which user will have access to it. So that's in general what the app is all about. From our perspective, the client came to us with the idea for the app. From the app strategy perspective, it was extremely important to first see, to go through all the steps, making sure that is there a valid problem in terms of the app validation, and there was indeed a need for a crowdsourcing app in Canada. There are a few apps out there which do the same job in US, but nothing of that sort was in Canada. So there was a tremendous gap and opportunity for that. We conducted, in order to do the user validation, we conducted user surveys using some partner services, which allowed us to conduct user surveys for a specific target user demographic, and that helped us understand whether they are looking for a similar app. We also were able to get stats on what kind of tasks would they be interested in outsourcing, what kind of features would they be interested in. So that's the kind of data we got from the user feedback. So that's how we conducted the user validation. From market validation, it was more from the perspective of understanding what are the tasks that people subcontract in a traditional form, such as hiring of handymen, hiring of people to deliver stuff, and so on. So we studied that market to really understand what the opportunity is, what are the revenues, or what size of market are we really catering to. That helped us narrow down on that, which so that was important from the market validation perspective. And then from the perspective of ability to grow on this market, we definitely saw opportunity in terms of geographic growth by expanding to multiple cities. And the app was built in a way that it would be very light and very easy to go to different cities and expand geographically. So that's how basically the app strategy was conducted in essence. And then from the perspective of understanding the features and whatnot, I mean, the UX analysis was an important portion where we conducted a research of what the features should be, what are the important features. We prioritized on the features that we could launch in phase one, and based on that, that's where the UX analysis came into place. Beyond the UX analysis, which also included competition research and so on, was the phase where we built the wireframes for the application, which is mainly sketching out every single screen of the app. As you can see on the screen right now, it's basically, you can call it as a blueprint of the app, or you can, or wireframes is what it's called, or it can be sketches, where you, in essence, you draw out every screen of the app, not necessarily in terms of how it looks at the end to the end user, but how it's supposed to function. And the UX analysis will also take care of, will also determine how the layout should be placed, which button goes where, from the perspective of the user. Will an OK button at the bottom make sense on this page, or should be on the top? And that could be determined by the kind of user, by how they're using the app, from how the competitor apps, as well as from the trends. All of those aspects need to be taken into consideration. And from those wireframes, you will see this is sort of what the final UI designs look like. So that's how, as you see, the wireframes are more of skeletal designs, whereas the UI designs are the final designs, which incorporate the brand elements of the application, look and feel. So all those aspects will be incorporated as a part of the application itself, to do the final designs. Again, for every screen of the application, one portion is either after the completion of the wireframes or the UI design, and the step that can be included is prototyping. In this case, for this particular app, we did the prototyping phase after the wireframes, which was basically, I'll just go back to the previous slide, so which was basically connecting these screens to each other in a way, when you click on OK button, it will take you to the logical next step or the next screen, and you'll be able to maneuver through the entire app. For this case, it was very important for our clients to take this prototype to their investors, and get some confidence from them, so that they can get understanding of what the app is supposed to do and how it functions. It also helped them conduct a lot of user surveys, where users can go through the functional portion of the app and understand how it behaves, how it's supposed to work, and give genuine feedback, give better feedback, because they have a better understanding of the app is supposed to behave. The other option is, after the UI designs are completed, which you could do a prototype at that time, where you're linking the different UI designs to each other, or you could do a high fidelity version, as Chetan explained, where it would be an actual HTML5 pages, or a POC, where you would actually develop a simpler portion of the app itself. Different prototypes can be Different prototype option can be chosen based on what's the objective of the prototype, as well as as well as the budget of the prototype, and so on and so forth. Then obviously, once the UI designs are done, we completed the app, and as you can see on the screen, it's on the app stores now. This was specifically done for iPhone. It was a logical choice, or it was a intended choice during the strategy phase itself, that the MVP would be only for iPhone, and the second phase we will include Android as well. Again, to keep the budget in check, as well as get user feedback as early as possible. So right now you can go in and download the app from iTunes Store. Another important aspect, obviously, is also app optimization. As you would see, having the right kind of iPhone app screenshots, right description, keywords, and so on and so forth. And from the marketing perspective for Loka Voka, that was conducted from PR, getting news releases, to online campaigns, which included Facebook ads, Twitter ads, organic social media marketing, online banners, and on-ground activation, which included right from trade shows, to being on the street campaigns, being part of festivals, having booths everywhere, so on and so forth. Again, identifying where your actual user base is. In terms of Loka Voka, they decided to do their initial launch campaign specifically in the region of Aurora. So it was very important that we covered Aurora region really well. So that's some examples of the posts for Loka Voka.
Thank you, Kundan, for the insights. It was really informative. So you will on this slide just see a few of our clients, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, right from the major corporate clients uh, to the right. So from major clients to tech startups to enterprise houses as well. So we'll just open the webinar for a few questions now. I know we are running 4 minutes late because we started 4 minutes late. So we'll just open the webinar for questions now. Either me or Kundan should be able to answer whatever questions come from the audience. So Shala asked if you can get the recording. Yes, Shala, so the webinar is being recorded right now, and the recording will be sent to all the attendees after the webinar. Great. So we'll look for the questions. You're welcome. So next question is from John. I need insights on the strategy, especially the wireframing process. So Kundan, would you like to explain how the wireframing, I initial the webinar, probably John joined late or something, but I explained a little bit of wireframing process, how it helps them to visualize the idea.
Sure, I'll give a quick snapshot in terms of the wireframe process. So the wireframe process usually starts with understanding what your user is looking for in the app and making sure that the main screens of the app are able to convey that functionality or that user flow. So say for example, let's take the example of the Loca Voca app that you probably checked out at the end. So from that perspective, the main functions that the user needed to have access to were ability to post a message, ability to view tasks, so post a task, view a task, and then have access to their own tasks. So we started by putting together the home screen wireframes where the where we had a carousel of different kinds of tasks that user can select to post a task, where you have an option to click on a browse task button, and then you have an option to look at my tasks. So that's how we started with the home screen, and then based on that main home screen, we started building the wireframes for the rest of the application. So that was the main process, and then obviously making sure that whether through sketch format or whatnot, just making sure that the entire functionality of the app is covered through the wireframes. The better requirements in writing you have at the beginning of the process will help you guide in terms of having accurate wireframes. So whether it's high level functional requirements or a details SRS document, as we call system requirement specifications document, that will guide you well in terms of having a concise and a foolproof wireframes document in essence. So that's an extremely important portion. You can use a tool such as Balsamic, Axure. There are several good tools. Pencil is a free tool. There are several tools out there that you can use to do that. Internally, we use both Balsamic and Axure, depending on the type of project and prototypes that are required. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Great, thank you, Kundan. We'll look for the next question. I'm sorry we're running late, so we'll just be able to take another question. And as I said, the webinar is being recorded. The recording will be sent to all the attendees. If you have any questions, you see the contact information, get in touch with us. And as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, you need an expert after a certain amount of time to actually build your product or the idea. So the last question is about the marketing. How do you help in marketing, or what are the mediums that you follow? So pretty straightforward. At the end of the webinar, we market the products. We help market the developed app through the social media, through the TheAppLabb. We can create a one-pager website which will explain what the product is supposed to do to drive growth and on-ground activation and all that. So in the marketing slide, you should be able to know what are the steps that we take, and there are all sorts of media that can be taken care of. So next question. Okay, that was a short answer. So we'll just take quickly one more question about the strategy. So how the strategy all over works and what's the significance. So I'll have Kundan answer this question for you.
For sure. Thanks, Rick, for the question. Basically, I see a follow-up question where you're asking specifically what needs to be done on your end before you come to an expert like us for building the strategy and how we can help you with the strategy. That's an excellent question, Rick. I think as we covered in the webinar, the essential part from your perspective is the validation of the idea. One fine day you come up with a great idea for building an app. It's extremely important that, although as good as that idea might sound, it's extremely important that you conduct some kind of a validation to understand whether that idea is really as good as it is, and not. Even if that idea is great, does it comply well with who your users are supposed to be? Is there how many? Is it 500 users that your app is wonderful to, or is it a million users that who will find your app great? It basically boils down to the solution that you have for a specific problem, and how big that problem really is, and the size of that problem, and the gravity of the problem. And those things can mainly be done through user validation, as I mentioned, where you are able to survey users, able to research on the users, and really understand what the users are looking for. Again, that will sort of help you understand from the user validation perspective. And then market validation is another extremely important point, where you try and understand again how big the market is for this kind of a product or this kind of a solution to a problem. Those are most important things. Beyond that, a partner like us could help you with everything else, even with those aspects. With user validation, we can help you with that as well. But then, in terms of charting out the idea, and in terms of creating a plan for how that app can be executed, whether it's from the features perspective, the feature prioritization perspective, and from building the features perspective, starting with wireframes, UI designs, actual app development, testing, and even marketing if required. And a partner like us could help you with all those processes of the app itself.
Great. Okay, so sorry for running a little over. As I said, connect with us for a particular questions you may have or specific to your idea and the initiative, and we should be able to assist you in all the way possible. So recording will be sent once again, and you see the contact information. Go to our website, tweet us, or use a hashtag, and we'll sure be in touch with you. So I'll thank you all for your time today. Thank you, Kundan, and we'll conclude the webinar. Thank you, and have a good afternoon.